Hey buddies, welcome back to Coders Are Cool. I'm Chris, and on today's episode, I'm going to teach you a little bit about the basics of HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. The hypertext part of it is really just a document that contains links to other documents. So you might have a page about comics, and it might contain different links to X-Men, Daredevil, Silver Surfer, and each of those pages might contain other links and so on and so forth. They're hypertext documents. It's the linking part of it. Now, a markup language is what's used for computers to display the content on the web page, so the stuff that you read, but also the presentation and structure information. So a web page might have an image on it, it might have some bullet points, it might have a table of, favorite comic book characters or whatever it is. But that information is also included in the document. So the markup language describes both the structure of how it should be displayed on the screen and the actual information to display on the screen. So HTML itself is used by web browsers to display a web page. Now, HTML is the user interface component of a web page. There are some other things behind the scenes and functionality and more advanced stuff doesn't use HTML, but you can think of HTML as what you see on the screen. So let's throw up a diagram. HTML has some friends, it has some buddies. So we've got CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So the style sheet is the part of the web page which can really control what it looks like. So it can get very specific with exact colors and fonts and images and alignments on the screen and backgrounds and stuff like that. JavaScript is more the behavior of the page and it allows you to do things when you interact with the HTML page. So a good example there might be if you are submitting a form on a website, so you type in your name, you type in an address, type in your phone number, and then you click submit, an alert might pop up, a warning message saying you have to enter an area code in your phone number. Maybe you forgot to do that. So that alert, and actually popping it up when you clicked that button, that would have been done using JavaScript. So JavaScript allows you to do some more interactive behaviors within the web page itself that normal HTML can't do. So you've got HTML, which is the structure of the page and the content. You've got CSS, which provides all the styling and aesthetic information. And then you've got JavaScript, which can add some more advanced behavior to the page. Now in today's episode, we're only going to be talking about HTML for now, because there's a little bit to go across. Just a note that although I said that HTML just describes the structure and the content of the document, and CSS controls the style and the aesthetics, HTML also used to have some more aesthetic information in it. So if you're learning HTML and you're looking through Google tutorials or you're reading some books, you might see things like font tags and bold and underlined and italic tags. They're deprecated, which means they're no longer recommended for HTML. I'll get more into this in the coming tutorials, but basically anything that changes the look and aesthetics of what a web page is like, it should be controlled in the style sheet, not in the HTML. HTML should just be the structure of the web page. Anyway, we can get more into that later. So let's talk about HTML tags. So you might have heard this before, as tags are really the main part of HTML. Everything you try to do with HTML and what a web browser understands, it's all about tags. So tags look like that. It starts with an angle bracket, and then a word, which is the tag name, and then another angle bracket. Now, tags can actually have a little bit more info in them. So you might have a tag that then has another tag, which is its closing tag, and then in between there is some more information. It's probably good to use an example here. So let's use a H1. Now, H1 is a special type of tag which says this is the header, the main heading for the page. So H1 is the opening tag. Then we've got the header. Now let's say hello world. It's a very classic programming example. And then we put in the closing tag of H1. Now the closing tag, as you can see, has a / in front of the H1. So once you get used to HTML and you've had a bit more practice, you'll be able to look at this piece of text and instantly see that, okay, it's a H1 tag, then there's some content which says hello world, and then there's the closing H1 tag. Now our web browser also sees this and knows what to do with it. Although tags often have ending and closing tags, they don't always have to. So another example is like a BR, and a BR is a break. So that puts in a new line break into the page when the web browser renders it. So a BR tag just has the BR. There is no closing BR, and that's fine. We don't always need one. Now some tags can contain other tags inside them. An example here might be a paragraph tag. So a paragraph denotes a paragraph of text. So say you're writing about comic books and you write Wolverine, blah, 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 and then you want to make a specific word stand out from the rest, you might use a strong tag. Now, you can say, let's say Wolverine walks down the street and sees Cyclops. And let's make Cyclops strong. We want it to stand out in the web browser. And that's our paragraph. And then we put the closing paragraph tag in there. So that's a good example where you can see you've got the paragraph tag, but then inside there, in the actual content, is a strong tag. And there's lots more examples here. So I'm just showing you the lay of the land. Now, there are some tags that actually aren't shown in the page at all. So although it's in the HTML document, it's not visually seen. So a good example of this is the head tag. Now a head tag can contain a title, which is the title of the page. And you may see that in the very top of the web browser window or in the tab if your browser has tabs, or you'll actually see that in the Google search results page. That's the name of the page. A head tag can also contain other stuff like link tags. Now link tags allow you to include a CSS document, but anyway, we'll get more into that later. The important part is that the head tag isn't shown in the web page of when you're looking at it in a web browser. So tags might have a start and an end. They might just have one single tag and not have an end. They might have other tags inside them, and some tags aren't shown at all on the web page. Some tags have attributes. Now that's when there's a little bit more information that you need on the tag. So let's say, for example, an image. So you want to show an image in your web page. You've got IMG, and then you've got the src equals, and then some more information there in quotes. So what that is the image tag actually has an attribute on it called source, or src. Now that's used by the web browser to attach more information to the tag. In this case, it's going to be specifying where that actual image file lives on the server. And then it can go and download it and display it on the page. But the important fact is that you can put more information on a tag using attributes. Anyway, let's get to some actual code here because I'm sure you guys want to see it and it'll make more sense. So here, I've got a bit of a basic example I've just mocked up to show you guys what a web page could look like in a simple way. So the important part I think we need to realize is that HTML is a little bit dumb. Like the actual language itself, it's got some, it's got tags and you can do a lot with it, but the actual web browser is the smart part. HTML is just text. There's nothing amazing going on there. Just as like in the English language, I've learnt English, that's cool, I can talk, but it's you being able to comprehend what I'm saying, which is the real smart part. Just as in HTML, it's the web browser being able to comprehend what I was trying to say when I wrote this HTML, and then be able to display it on the screen. When a web browser reads the HTML to build the web page, it reads it from the top to the bottom, which means things you want to appear up the top of the page appear up the top of the HTML code, and similarly, things that appear at the bottom of the page appear at the bottom of the HTML code. So looking at this example, you'll see that some of the text is a little bit more across to the right than the other text. We call that indented. So for an example, in between the two head tags, the start head and the closing head tag, there's the title, and that has been moved across a little bit more towards the right. So there's no reason that you have to do that. I've just done that, and it's a convention because it makes it easier to read. So generally, when there's a tag inside another tag, we move it across to the right. So that's why the document kind of goes in a bit of like a triangle shape. It goes out and then it comes back in as the tags open and close. So although, a really important thing here. Let's actually look at the what this looks like in the browser. That's very, very important. Cool, so there you go. That's what this page looks like in the web browser. So there's the code, and that is how the web browser actually displays the code. So let's run through it, and I'll describe what it is, and I'll also point out what it looks like on the web page. Now, it's important that you don't have to fully understand this at the moment, because we're going to go into it more detail, but just get the general idea of how tags can affect a web page. So starting at the top, there's the doc type tag. Now this is actually a tag that isn't displayed on the screen. It's just there to tell the web browser some extra information. So we're telling the web page that this is a HTML page. So we're telling the web browser that this is a HTML page. The next tag is the HTML tag. Now that actually wraps the whole document. So it goes all the way from the top to the bottom, and everything for this HTML page is inside those two tags. The next tag is the head tag. Now the head tag is not displayed on the screen. So everything in between there is not displayed in the web page. Now actually that's a little bit wrong, not displayed on the screen, because the title tag, which is inside the head, is actually what's used to display in the browser, in the top menu bar, or in the tab. Google will use to display the title of the web page in its search results. So although the title isn't in the page itself, it is used in displaying the document, I guess. So other parts of the head tag which aren't displayed, that I don't have here in this example, but things like including a style sheet or including a JavaScript file, they're also put in the head tag. So stuff that's not going to be next is the body tag. In the web page. Everything inside the body tag is displayed in the web page. This is the real content of the page. So in our example, we have a tag that says H1. Now H1, as we said before, is like the main header of the page, or the heading of the page. So in HTML, there's H1 all the way to H6, so H1, H2, H3, H4, and what they are is they're the different headings in the page. You use them to sort of say, this is the most important text in the page, this is the second most important text, and third, and so on. So in our example, we've got the H1 tag. Inside there, we've got coders are cool. Now, an important point here I'm going to say is that you might look at this HTML output and see coders are cool is big text. It's bigger, it's bold. Now, before I did say that HTML isn't used to display the style stuff, and we shouldn't actually use it to do the colors and the fonts and so on. We should use CSS for that. But what you're seeing here is that the web browser actually has a default way of rendering this code. So the web browser has a default style sheet. So that's what's making it this size and like bold and so on. But we can override that with CSS. Now after the H1 tag, we've got a P tag. And the P tag goes all the way down to here. So P is for paragraph. So this is used for making a paragraph of text. So inside the P, we've got some words. So this is what's in the gray there. It just says, and HTML is a. Now in there you see HTML is a great way to begin, and great is in between strong tags. So that's like our example before. We have a P tag that contains other tags inside it, and you can have many other tags inside a paragraph, because a paragraph is really just a big chunk of content. So after HTML is a great way to begin, we've actually got a BR tag. Now what that does, you can see, is the next content is on a new line. So we've got HTML is a great way to begin, at least I think so. With the break tag has moved, at least I think so, onto the next line, which just puts in a break there. And as we said before, break has no closing tag, so it's just angle bracket, BR, angle bracket. And then there's the end of our P tag, our paragraph, and that is one paragraph. Now after there, we're looking at the image tag. So in this example, we have image src equals img/skull.png. Now that may look a little bit confusing, but the important thing to note is that img/skull.png is just the path to the image. So in this example, on my computer, I've got a directory called image, img, and then in there is a file called skull.png. And the web browser is picking up that image and displaying it. So the src attribute on the img tag tells the web browser where to pull that image from and actually show it. So as you can see, this shows the skull image because I've been reading up on the Punisher and I thought it looks quite cool. So after there is one more P tag, one more paragraph. And you can see that when it's rendered, this says, that is all very interesting, but let's go to the next page. So let's go to the next page is in blue and it's underlined, which is how the web browser by default displays a link. So in the code, you can see this says ahref equals nextpage.html, and then the tag closes. And then the content is let's go to the next page. And then there's a closing A tag. So the A tag, which stands for anchor, is the actual link. So links are called anchors when you're writing the HTML. And the href part for it stands for hypertext reference, which is the document that you're going to go to via that link. So before, when I mentioned that that hypertext is about documents linking to each other, this is the core example. This web page has a link to another web page. And that web page is called nextpage.html. Now I haven't actually made this page, but you could imagine that if you're in the web browser and you click, let's go to this next page, that's when the browser takes you to the next page, instantly, just like that. So after the A tag or the anchor tag closes, then the P tag closes because we're inside a paragraph, then the body closes because that's the end of the body, then finally HTML tag closes because that's the end of the HTML document. So that's just a description on running through from top to bottom of a basic HTML document that I've just made up as an example. Look, there are a lot more tags, HTML tags out there, and we will go through them, but I just thought it would be cool to run through an example and also see what it's going to look like afterwards. Because I know personally, when I was learning, that's what you care about. You want to make things that look cool and you want to actually see stuff on the screen. So one thing that isn't displayed in code, but you do see in the output, is that a web browser can display different types of tags in different ways. So let's take, for example, the coders are cool, header 1 up the top. So that h1 tag, coders are cool, closed h1 tag, it's displayed on a line by itself. What that means is that it's a block element, which means that everything after this is going to be displayed on a new line by default. So another example is inside the P tag, there's the strong tag. Now, in our code it says, and HTML is a great way to begin, but the strong tag isn't on a new line. So when you see great, it's not on a new line when it's displayed in the web browser. So when you see great in the web browser, it's just the one line. So that's called an inline element. So you've got inline elements and block elements, which basically describe whether that element, when it's rendered on the page, is going to be on a new line, or it's just going to be like inside the content where we left off. So that's the basic structure of a web page, and there's a lot more to go on with that I'll follow up in future tutorials, but I thought I'll just do the introduction and then I'll get you set up ready to roll next time. So for building HTML pages and web pages, all you need is really two things. Well, three things. A computer, and then you need a web browser to be able to view the page. Now I'm going to recommend Google Chrome. So Chrome is a great web browser. Now whatever operating system you're using, whether it's Windows, which comes with Internet Explorer or IE, or it's Mac, which comes with Safari. Now that's all cool, but I recommend Chrome because it's available on every operating system. It's small, it's fast, and it generally makes things look nice. So if you could go along to google.com/Chrome and download Chrome for your operating system, and if you use Chrome throughout these tutorials, your stuff should look exactly like my stuff and the world will be a better place. After a web browser, the next thing you need is a text editor. So again, every operating system comes with a text editor. Windows has Notepad and Mac has Notepad or something as well. Anyway, I forget. But the point is, there are a lot better text editors out there specifically designed for programming. So one I'm going to recommend is called Atom. So if you go along in your web browser to http://atom.io and you download Atom for your operating system, it's super cool. It looks nice by default. It's got a dark theme, which is what I like, which is what the code was rendered in today, which you saw. But another reason I really dig it is because it's got some cool plugins, and a lot of cool developers use it and make great plugins for it and share it with each other. So I'll show you a screenshot of Atom now. So this is basically what it looks like. You just make new files in it and you save them as HTML, and I'll go through this more in the future. But there's something quite important about Atom, which is another reason why I chose it to use it in these examples as the text editor. Atom itself is actually written using HTML. So that's a little confusing, and maybe I just blew your mind a bit. But Atom, the program that you just downloaded and installed, everything you see is constructed using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It is not a web page. It's an actual program, but it's been built using web technology. Now that's super cool, and I'm a big fan of this stuff, so I'll definitely talk more about it, so don't worry. However, basically all you need to know now is web technologies, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, are no longer just for web. They're not just confined to websites and web browsers. You can actually make real programs, software that you can download. And I think that's super cool. And I've done a few and it works pretty well. So yeah, Atom is built using web technologies, which is another really cool reason to use it. I'll show you one little last secret. So Atom has cool plugins. And you guys can look into this yourself. But one plugin that I think you'll find handy is the HTML preview plugin. So you can go into Preferences, and then you can go into Packages and install the Atom HTML Preview package. Once installed, you can then go up to Packages on the menu bar, Preview HTML, and Enable Preview, and then you'll see a preview of the HTML you're writing. Now that's super cool because when you guys start writing HTML for yourselves, you basically see it pop up as soon as you make the changes. So it's better than going back and forth between the web browser. Anyway, you don't have to worry about that one, but if you're keen, install it, have a play, it's super cool. I think that's pretty much everything for this tutorial, and my voice is starting to fail, so I'll leave you for now. In the coming episodes, what I'm going to do is sort of keep taking you through each individual sort of HTML tag. It's going to get more and more information as we go along, but it's not going to be too tricky. But again, if anything's going too fast or too slow, just let me know and I'll try to adjust it accordingly. Cool guys, well thank you very much and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.